Welcome everyone to our very first edition of BizzTalk Africa. We are very excited today to have our guest Brandt van der Walt, who is originally from South Africa, currently in Dubai, and he's representing his company BChange, where he's the co-founder and managing director, correct?
Correct.
All right, perfect. And then we also have our hosts today, which are myself, Jason Schuster from BizTech, and also Vidya Mike, who is also a partner at BizTech now, but is also the founder and CEO of Questus, which, if you don't know who they are, go check them out. Doing some really exciting things in the VC world, and very active in the African space. So, anyways, welcome everyone. Brandt, start us off. Give us 2-3 minutes. Tell us who you are, a little bit about your background, and a little bit about what you're doing with BChange right now. And then we'll really start diving into the topic of Africa.
Thanks, Jason. And I think first and foremost, I'd like to thank you for hosting me. And it's absolutely exciting to be here. BChange, very good question. My name is Brandt from the Walt, and I'm originally from South Africa, as you know. We started BChange originally first in Singapore, Dubai, and then on South Africa. And our aim and our goal is to essentially assist companies and their products and their services to expand internationally from one market to another market. And we do that by focusing purely on the investors and seeing understanding what their mandates are, and then finding and doing deal making, if I could say that, to develop opportunities specifically for our clients. Doesn't have to be necessarily investors, although we do target them. We also look at entrepreneurs and see where we can align the opportunities. So yeah, we've been doing this now for about 8 years now, and have done quite a bit of traveling. And yeah, so other than that, I'm very excited to be here and very excited to start the discussion about Africa. There's a lot of things happening now, and it's a good time to have this discussion because I think a lot of changes has happened and people should be excited about what's happening in Africa now.
The thing is, wherever you read about Africa and emerging Africa, etc., etc. So in your experience, right, doing business in Africa, how has it changed over the last couple of years? Where do you think we are at now?
Well, I think first, the big elephant in the room is COVID-19. I think that, a lot of processes and things that were inevitable in Africa that should have taken 2 or 3 or 4 years, be it political, be it whichever. I think COVID came in and it showed everybody one thing. It showed everybody that, you have to expect the unexpected. Nobody really expected, COVID to play out the way it is. But what it also did is now it's fast tracking a lot of things that would have traditionally taken a couple of years. Now we're seeing changes happening in 2 or 3 or 5 or 6 months. And for instance, everybody is now went digital, and a lot of things are going digital now. So we're seeing a lot of movement towards that. But also, one of the key things that I think will change Africa dramatically is the African Free Trade Agreement, for instance, that it was a little bit delayed now with COVID, but it's going forward. And that is a critical thing to keep in mind because ultimately it will open up so much opportunity for Africa, and people should be aware of that. It's a lot of exciting things coming in. Okay.
Now, quick question. How is BChange getting involved in those changes, and how are they dealing with COVID-19 and its effects on the African landscape?
Well, I think, it's a good question. And, if I ask, let me put it to you this way. We look very closely at what our clients' needs are. Okay. Africa is a unique place to operate in. There's a lot of opportunity, but there's also a lot of challenges. And these challenges come in various shapes and forms. Now, we've all heard stories of people in large companies and entrepreneurs going into Africa, and especially investors going into Africa and burning their fingers. And they do it because they didn't do proper due diligence. They don't know who they're dealing with, why they are there, what they're going to do, and how to get it done. So ultimately, the goal for us is to look very closely with what our investors are looking for, our partners or our client, what their brief is. And then we do a proper pre-qualification to make sure that we find the right qualified opportunities for them, and then qualify them properly. And then the last phase is the enablement phase, where we get involved in getting the right person to do the job, to execute if required, put a team together. So we look at really the opportunity itself, and each of these opportunities are quite unique. There's no cookie cutter approach with these type of things, if I can put it that way. So the key, I think, really is to understand what is our investors' need or the client's needs. And this is what makes BeChange different. We are not a broker. We don't take an opportunity from one person and then go into the market and float it and sell it. We look closely what the needs are of the investor or partner or client, and then we go and we do what we call the deal making phase. We create an opportunity. We find the right partners, joint venture partners, whatever is required to make the opportunity happen. And for that, usually you have three different people. You have the entrepreneur, the guy that has an opportunity, an idea in his mind. And that person is not always the same person that would, for instance, execute the project or be the manager of the project. And then also you have the investor. So you have these three parties. So we look at how these interact, and through proper due diligence and management and structuring, we enable these projects.
That's really fascinating. I mean, the thing is, investors' appetite for Africa, significant. Everyone knows there's a wealth of things to explore and projects to do. But the risk, when you don't know the landscape, you have regulatory, you have governmental, of course, we have what's happening right now with COVID, of course. But the fact is, one, people can't fly to get there. Logistically, how do you guys operate? So you do the due diligence. Do you have people on the ground? Do you have,
Indeed. So we operate throughout Africa. And, again, we have certain countries that we focus on more than others due to political situations. But in the end, we really do touch all the African countries. What we have noticed is there's a lot of collaboration happening virtually now. But still, that can only take you to a certain point. There is still the element where you need to have feet on the ground, people that understand what to do. And so we collaborate with trusted parties, people that we have personal connections with, that have, let's say, been qualified, right, to assist us with the further enablement of these projects. And really, that is key. If you want to operate in Africa, you cannot enter a new market and not understanding the culture, the way of doing business, the pitfalls that there may be. So our traditional way is always to collaborate with a trusted party in that country. And so this is our model. And that has shown a significant higher rate of success than the traditional, thinking of if you throw money at it, the right people will come and the right things will come. That's not the case.
Was it number one reason that projects have not been successful or as successful as they should be in the past in Africa?
Well, I think, I've seen so many projects where we get the projects, from the investors or from the entrepreneurs or whoever they may be, and they come in the shape of a specific shape, and people don't realize that when they're actually finished with enabling the project, that the project actually looks way different from what was originally proposed. So people are, in that sense, they need to be flexible in order to see how the project is developing towards the end result to actually make money. Because the key thing is people have amazing ideas. They come up with, and I can give you good examples of people that came to me with amazing concept. They had a really good idea. And then I read through the investment brief, and 11 pages down, it took them 11 pages to explain to me what the problem is. And then on the 11th page, right on the bottom, they explain for the first time to the investor or to the reader how they're going to make money. Because that is the ultimate question. And I think there's a lot of opportunity, a lot of, ideas that go around in Africa and things that you could look at. But the critical question you need to ask is, how do I make money? How do I generate wealth? How do I get money in the bank? And that is the critical thing. And a lot of companies struggle with cash flow issues, with getting paid, because having a good business model is one thing. But, if you cannot get your receivables in, if you cannot get your money from whoever you're dealing with, or from the market.
Business 101.
That's and these are the basics, I think people think. Yeah. And in Africa, it's a real challenge. You need to know how to collect money and how to follow up, and again, it ties in with having the right partners.
Right, and this is something BeChange can do. Now, in that sort of scenario, when you guys are putting your framework together, how do you ensure that the economic benefit to the African people are always maintained? Because it's great to have projects and stuff like that, but part of getting to and assisting, we all have a responsibility to help with the sustainable development goals, right? I mean, that's something that's critical. Is that something that you guys sort of always make sure, you know, you have to make your projects that you take on must have a SDG impact?
Absolutely. But yeah, you know, I think again, and this is again tying up to my first, you know, critical part of having the right partners. In these various countries, you sit with a lot of good IP. You sit with people that are qualified, that have good experience, that we tend to bring into these projects. Okay, that understand the local language, the local, you know, way of thinking and doing business, and that is critical. And we also see a lot of movement towards agricultural projects and humanitarian projects. Because we shouldn't forget, there's still a big need in Africa for basic resources, you know, such as food and these type of things. And there's a lot of opportunity when it comes to those. So bringing in the local community has always been key to develop these things further. And so and you also get a lot of government support when you do that. So it's always important to keep that in mind.
I have a quick question about this. So when we're talking about entrepreneurs, are you finding that there's more entrepreneurs coming to Africa from outside of Africa, or are we seeing more entrepreneurship opportunities coming from Africa? I mean, as far as BeChange goes, obviously you want local partners, but how many of the entrepreneurs are outside coming in versus inside trying to develop out? What's been your experience there?
Well, I think that the simple answer is that there's a lot of opportunity and they exist there, right? Both from Africa, people that have great ideas, they're looking to go out or to find solutions to problems in their own countries. And they have certain challenges, and the biggest challenge that they have is raising capital, attracting finance for their projects. Okay, and there are various reasons for this, and I'll go into that in just a while. But then you also see with a lot of other companies and entrepreneurs outside of Africa that want to go into Africa, but they simply are either two things. They either don't know how, or they know how, but they're scared. And they don't, you know, so the trick is to make a bridge between the two. And I think fundamentally, you need to understand that entrepreneurs and investors or the global community fundamentally speak different languages. A guy that sits in Africa that has a great idea and he has, you know, he sees the problem firsthand and he knows how to solve it. But, you know, his challenge is to take that idea and put it on a paper that an investor that looks, you know, that thinks things like ROI and all these type of, you know, things. You need to look at the paper and be able to understand what the need is and how I'm going to make money as an investor from that. So that's the first challenge for them in Africa. But we are seeing a lot of technologies that have already been developed that could solve a lot of problems in Africa, but people are not taking it, you know, to the next level and saying, you know, let's connect the dots. And we are currently involved in a few of these projects to help the entrepreneurs to solve these issues. For instance, if you look at, you know, a lot of especially Dubai has a very strong invested interest in developing, for instance, agricultural projects and throughout Africa. But the two things that you need there is water and electricity. So these are basic fundamental things you need to, you know, to make your agricultural projects a success. So those are things that I would focus on. And what we're seeing now is that the people are shifting away from the massive infrastructure development projects and rather focusing on smaller community projects where, you know, we got 5 farms, for instance. Let's try and generate electricity enough to produce electricity for these 5 farms and water supply and et cetera, et cetera. And then, you know, yeah, so that's a short answer, I think, in terms of that. But there definitely is a lot of interest from abroad that we've picked up that wants to come into to Africa, but simply they don't know how to enter the market, and I think they're scared to make that jump. And that's where we come in and say, look, let's listen to what my client needs, and we find the right parties, and we take them through a process, through proper due diligence, proper, identification of the right niche market that they want to penetrate, and then we facilitate it accordingly.
That's really interesting. So BChange is pretty much underwriting and de-risking the project in many respects. So do you work at the beginning, or how does the life cycle work? If I come to you and I say, you know what, I want to have the most amazing avocado plantation in Africa. Would you work with me till the end of the project, or is it a strategic partnership going forward?
We can get involved in any type of engagement, whichever the client needs. And basically we have three things which we ask of the investor. I want the investor to say to me, number one, I want to own and control the project, okay? Or B, I don't want to own and control the project, but I want to have an interest in the project. Or C, I don't want to own or control or have a high risk. I'd like to get involved in institutional funding type models where they look at those type of investments. So from these three, we then take the client through various stages. So for instance, the option A would give you a return from anything between, GP, 21% to 38%. Option B, we don't own and control, but you have a third party that manages your interest on your behalf. You're looking at anything from 15% to, let's say, 25 to 21%. And then option C, where you look at the traditional investment models through institutional funding, you're looking at about 5 to 12%. So those are the categories, and depending on what the client says, I want to own and control. Then we find, for instance, a project, they purchase the land, we take them through all of it, and we assist them with putting the management structure in place, all of the above. So depending on those three categories, and this is what we want investors to tell us. And again, this falls back into the investment brief, So we get involved with developing a specific project for the need of the client.
That's very exciting. Very exciting.
Absolutely.
But, if I can throw one back at you.
Do it.
I'm quite keen from your perspective, in operating, you have a lot of experience in Africa as well, and we've been working together for quite some time now, and it's been interesting, but I'd like to, understand from your perspective, what is the type of projects that you have noticed people are interested in? Where is the interest heading towards Africa at the moment from your perspective?
Brilliant question. In fact, I was actually doing some more research on it recently. It started off with these gigantic billion-dollar infrastructure projects, right? And the thing is, though, you're absolutely right. They're not that successful because first you have to understand the environment you're getting into. It's not just, counties and you have tribes, you have different ways in how the continent is made up and how they behave, how each country behave. And what I have found is that people are starting to decentralize and not think about a big centralized project. So as you were saying, villages looking at, specific sort of energy requirements. If you're looking for like a massive agricultural farm, you will be looking at partners who would then say, okay, we can do the irrigation system, this one can do the agriculture. So what I'm finding is that, my clients, the interest is, companies are now starting to team up like a little conglomerate of requirements to have that success. Because you need the energy, you need water, you need the agricultural know-how, so no one is trying to do any one thing. And that has been seeing so much more success, but also companies that have and investors who are going into Africa and doing projects and have the engagement of the local African people, utilizing this is a massively wonderful skilled workforce, intelligent people, well-educated, who need an opportunity. And when you sort of go hand in hand with them and work with them, the projects are tremendously successful. So I'm actually seeing smaller size project, more niche projects, but I'm also seeing a sort of syndication of efforts coming together. And it's very exciting, very exciting.
And I agree with you. I've seen the same. I think there is a lot of companies saying, let's come together. Let's see what we can, let's make a closed loop or the ecosystem, and we can all benefit from this and solve a problem. Because exactly what you said, for instance, one company may say, I'm interested specifically in agriculture. But to do that, I need energy. I need electricity.
Absolutely.
So you get another company that says, okay, I'm willing to get involved in that. But then you need water, and there's another company that could do this. Africa has got so much resources, and
exactly,
it's abundant around you. You just need to be able to harvest it and get it, do it properly. It's there. The solutions are there, and I think this is key. The technology aspect to all of these questions or all the challenges in Africa has already, to a large extent, been addressed. I mean, the technology exists for most of these solutions. It's just a matter of combining the efforts, getting the right people on board, and executing the project properly with the right know-how to ultimately make it a viable business model.
And by no means is it saturated, right? So for viewers out there, there's so much opportunity that yet to sort of get looked at. There's a huge amount of demand for more educational type companies coming in, doing stuff with people. Again, because of the vast size and the terrain, that's why you have this thing with energy, etc. In terms of connectivity, sophisticated telecoms or just telecoms, these are huge areas that there's a demand for. And of course, in financial services, my favorite topic, there's always opportunity there for sort of improvement, right? Because you do have a vast nation, but when you look at the core people, there are people every level, right? You have people who are quite poor and unbanked, and then you have the other side. And we need to make sure when we go in to do projects, we respect the people and we respect the land.
Absolutely agree with you. And that is, a collaboration between government, private, sector, all of these.
Indeed.
It's required, and it's easier said than done in most cases, but it is doable. It just takes a lot of, commitment from all parties to get to that point.
That's why we know you now.
That's right. That's right. Well, I want to build off of something that Vidya brought up, and I think that this is very, very important for both entrepreneurs and investors. Africa is huge. Africa is it's a continent. I mean, there's many countries within Africa, and I think that when especially folks that are not near Africa, right? Maybe it's a little bit more aware in Europe or the Middle East, but certainly in the US, understanding the needs of the African people from country to country, right? South Africa doesn't deal with the same issues as Central Africa, and North Africa is a completely different economy and culture than West Africa or East Africa. So I think that one thing that could be, a huge help is just understanding the different parts of Africa and what those opportunities are differing from country to country. For instance, I can't imagine that Ghana is dealing with the exact same issues as Nigeria, or maybe they are, versus Northern Africa, Egypt, Cairo. That's all Africa, but very different problems and needs and solutions. So how do investors and entrepreneurs navigate where they should be? Because just saying you should invest in Africa, that's crazy. That's like saying you should invest in Asia. What part? where do you want to put your money? Because it's going to be very different from place to place. So what would you say about that? Where do you start?
Great question.
It's a very good question, and I think I get that question quite often, actually. And again, it comes back to what is the risk analysis that the investor or the client has done for themselves and says, listen, I want to make a difference, and we can assist them by giving them good understanding of politically, how stable the countries are, what is the currency fluctuations. We have to take so many things into account, and again, it depends on the project. But there are certain key problems in Africa that is systemic throughout Africa. Even in the developed country, that is one part developed and another part third world, is South Africa, for instance. You have problems in that country, for instance, that a lot of people still don't have access to water. Wow. That is a problem that goes right through Africa. So there are certain elements that if you solve the problem, you could duplicate it. Your application of how you duplicate it or how you expand your product or your service throughout the continent would be, required to be adapted for each country. Because you have to, you quite correctly said it, dealing in Africa and in the Northern Africa is different from Southern Africa because of one thing. They speak French in the northern side, and below they speak Portuguese, and you have these challenges that you have to overcome, and there's a different mindset. And so we really look at what is it that they want to do, what they want to solve, and what is their approach, and then we guide them through a process to make it happen and identify which country would be probably the best for them.
Excellent.
We need more time. We need more time on these topics to sort of dive a little bit deeper. Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating.
I would agree.
I never have a boring day at the office. Every day is something very interesting, and I absolutely love what I do. And we've, been able to make a lot of difference into a lot of people, and we hope to keep on doing that. But definitely, there's a lot of challenges ahead with regards to COVID. But also, we're seeing a lot of people taking the initiative to find solutions to these problems. So I see a bright future for Africa. There's a lot of challenges, yes, and it's not easy doing business there, but I see a bright future.
Fantastic.
Wonderful. Now, we only have just 3 minutes left here. So, and we're definitely, like Viddy said, there's more here. We need to do this again. We need to have Brandt back on to talk about these things and how B-Change is getting involved. But just maybe some closing thoughts, just last little thoughts for today, based on what we've talked about today for those listening, for those watching. What would you tell them?
Well, I would say, first of all, don't be scared of Africa. Be cautious and make sure that you do proper due diligence when you enter a market. But there are so much opportunity. And similarly, if you're a businessman or a successful company in Africa and you have done something right and you want to expand your product, there are all countries such as Dubai and Singapore and the rest of Europe that would welcome these type of products and services. And don't be afraid to go take your product out. There's a lot of talent in Africa, and so I would always say that try and expand your horizon and do research and see where you can go with things. But obviously, I think another discussion, if we have it's on the follow-up discussions, I would definitely consider we discuss the Middle East and how it influences Africa. There's ultimately you have to think globally in terms of you're exporting the products and talking about logistics, because logistics is key in Africa and how things will change.
Absolutely.
So there's a lot of things we can discuss. But my closing remarks would be simply, don't be afraid, just be cautious. And there's a lot of reasons to be excited about Africa.
Brilliant. Awesome. You know what we should do, Jason? And we could make the decision here live. I think we have a little bit of a newsletter, a blog, so we could follow this series and have, a good write-up of what's happening. But also, credit to you, Brandt, in the work that you guys are doing. We couldn't fit all the information in there, but we'll make it available for people so they know how to contact you, how to contact the team, how to talk to Jason and I. And, if you want to get on to this and you have a great idea and you want us to talk to you, just drop us a line.
Absolutely. Sounds good to me.
Fabulous.
And then, like I said, Brandt, I think we'd love to have you again. We'll get with you after the show, see if we can find another time so we can continue this, talking everything that you mentioned at the end there. And I have a couple other things on my list I'd like to talk to you about as well. So, and our audience would love to hear it. Thank you so much for being here, Brandt. I really appreciate it from us at BizzTech. Thank you. Also to our audience, thank you so much for tuning in. Next time, come with questions, drop your questions in the chat, and we'll see if we can get to those individual questions as well. But for now, take care.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Absolutely.
Have a good one.
You too.